Of Apples and Magic by Legion of Pony. Of Apples and Magic. The big day of their wedding had finally arrived, and Canterlot Castle was lit up as though the grand galloping gala were coming tonight. But something just as spectacular was in the works. After over a long week of preparations, everything was set up for the royal wedding of Princess Twilight Sparkle and Applejack. The throngs of ponies that had come for the wedding were mind-boggling. Every pony from cart pullers to the well-known celebrities to nobles mingled together in the crowds. The settings were just as lavish, everything golden or otherwise ornate, something that made Applejack somewhat uncomfortable. "Rares, did I really gotta wear this frou-frou dress?" Applejack huffed as she looked over the rather poofy white wedding gown that Rarity had made for her, all the frills and lace and gold making her nearly gag at how gaudy it looked on her. Her mane was also all tussied up in the fashion that she usually see on the front cover of Prance magazine, not on her own head. "This ain't exactly my style, ya dig?" "Oh, Applejack, hush. This is the traditional Royal Canterlot wedding gown and coiffure that every pony since olden pony times had worn to be married in, and it is what the royal seamstress and hairstylist assisted me in designing and making. I couldn't imagine anyone not wanting to meet their amour in the altar with this on." "Well, you met her," Applejack huffed. "Oh, hush up and hold still, Miss Squirmy. I wouldn't want to prick you by accident as I sew this seam," Rarity warned, her magic carefully weaving the needle through the fabric. "Come to think of it, I thought I just sewed the seam not 2 weeks ago, and it fit you perfectly." Applejack chuckled. "Well, I have been eating a bit more as of late, so maybe that's why. Must be the stress giving me a big appetite." Rarity looked at her with a small frown. "Well, don't get too carried away with it. Habitual overeating is not only uncouth but unhealthy for a mare too," she warned before continuing her work. Before long, Applejack's alterations were finished, and her dress once more form-fit. It was a large, very stylish gown of olden pony fashion, an old but classic design that showed the regality of its wearer, with plenty of gold sewed into the seams. Carets of amber and emeralds both were subtly included into the dress to accentuate and contrast Applejack's natural coat and eye color, making for quite a beautiful display. "C'est très magnifique!" Rarity exclaimed, turning the mirror so Applejack could see herself. "My best work yet, even among the other gals in my own wedding dresses." Applejack was a bit more withheld with Rarity's statement, but kept it to herself, knowing that on almost any other mare the dress would look great. But on her, it simply looked excessive. "Yeah, Rares, it's beautiful." Twilight was squirming around in her nervousness and excitement, as she had her own, simpler but still fancy wedding dress hemmed by Rarity, it having a traditionally long train, which would be carried by a pony as she walked down the aisle, reading over the list of proceedings for what must have been the 10th time she read them out loud. "Okay, I'll be announced, walk down the aisle with Dad and with Celestia leading. Applejack will be waiting at the altar, and Dad will give me away, and we will then be joined there. We exchange vows and wedding trinkets. Then Applejack kisses me, and we're married. Simple, right?" Twilight summarized before going back and reading it. "Darling, it's really not that complex of a ceremony. You're going to put a hole through that paper if you stare at it any harder," Rarity quipped as she hemmed the dress again, finding it was tighter on Twilight too. "Dear, not to offend you right before your wedding, but you and Applejack should really consider more salads. She says she's been stress eating a bit, and it seems you are too. If a bit more." Twilight smiled self-consciously before giving a sigh. "Yeah, I know. Sometimes I just get really hungry for something, and I've just gotta have it. Have you ever tried cucumbers and chocolate ice cream? It's to die for," she said, getting a chuckle from Rarity. "Oh, I know that feeling, dear. When I go into estrus and my stallion orange sky isn't there to help me out with it, no pony gets between myself and my double chocolate truffle ice cream and my watercress cucumber sandwiches," Rarity said, with she and Twilight sharing a hearty laugh after that. Now do hold still, dear. The ceremony is in just over an hour. Just remember what we practiced, and you'll be fine. Twilight took a deep breath, then exhaled. I'm going to do okay, she assured herself, as she looked into the mirror at her reflection, meeting its eyes, assuring herself even if she wasn't sure at all. Twilight waited in her room and soon heard another knock on the door. Yes? Come in, she called out, the door opening and her quickly seeing the head of Cadence pop in. Hi, Cadence, she called out, smiling and trotting up to her. Cadence smiled in kind, wrapping Twilight in a hug as she approached. There's my little all-grown-up mare. I still can't believe you're getting married, even if it's going to happen in a few minutes, Cadence cooed, wrapping Twilight in a hug. Yeah, I know. I can't help but feel that something bad's gonna happen today, like it did at your wedding, Twilight said, looking away. I mean, the changelings are still out there. Chrysalis is still alive. Twilight, you have nothing to worry about, especially not about the changelings. Not only is the party being guarded by 24 guards, and the grounds being patrolled by another 30, all of the unicorn guards and Celestia herself are scanning guests with a changeling-specific spell. If the scanned pony is a changeling in disguise, they'll dissipate their magic and they'll be revealed. Celestia had heavy research done on changeling shape-shifting magic after what happened at Shiny and my wedding, and that spell is the result, Cadence comforted, giving Twilight a small nuzzle. I know, but even if it's not something like a major invasion, what about if I forget my lines, or if I trip? What if I... Twilight said, her voice rising, before Cadence magically closed her muzzle, her next words coming out as a muffled mumble. Twilight, calm down. Nothing bad's going to happen unless you panic. You've practiced this countless times and have the proceedings memorized, remember? Breathe in. Breathe out, Cadence said, giving her a smile as Twilight did the breathing exercise she had taught her. Besides, being all stressed out isn't good for... Just then, she was interrupted by a loud series of knocks on the door, as well as the voice of Nightlight, Twilight's father, calling in for them to hurry up, that the ceremony was in 5 minutes. Well, that's my cue, Twilight said, getting up as the dress train carrier came in and gave the princesses a bow. I'll see you at the altar and BBBFF at the reception, Cadence. Remember, stay calm, face forward, and try not to bite too hard on the flower stems of the bouquet. I learned the hard way that the stem fluid is really bitter. Most importantly, stay calm and remember the proceedings, Cadence reminded her, and with that, they all headed out to the wedding chapel. Good luck. Twilight waited outside of the main chapel's door minutes later, waiting for her cue to enter when the doors were opened for her. She kept taking deep, calming breaths as Cadence had taught her, kept telling herself that she was going to do this properly, that they had practiced it 12 times, and that she had it down pat. Celestia was also with her as the officiant of the ceremony, and her father to give her away to Applejack. As the time came and the doors opened, Celestia stepped inside. Mares and gentlecolt, I present to you the bride, Princess Twilight Sparkle. As she heard the wedding theme start, and her cue from Celestia, Twilight bit down on a nervous reflex, nearly gagging at the sudden bitter flavor invading her mouth from the crushed flower stems. Cadence was right. This is bitter, she thought, trying not to wince and hold her composure as she stepped onto the red carpet lining the aisle. Walking slowly alongside her father, Apple Bloom, Scootaloo, and Sweetie Belle took the lead of Twilight, sprinkling the floor with rose petals, her dresses long train pushing them aside as she passed them by. She walked the aisle cordially, looking around to the huge crowd watching on every step, concentrating hard on making each hoofall graceful, on making each one bring her that much closer to her goal. She saw a large assortment of ponies she knew, from celebrities to ponies from Ponyville, ponies she grew up around in Canterlot, and, of course, all of her and most of Applejack's extensive family sitting near the front. She saw her mother in the front row crying happily, along with her brother crying alongside her, both sharing a box of tissue, as together they spilled liquid pride for her. As her mother and she met eyes, she smiled brightly, her eyes showing happiness that her daughter had finally found her true love. As she approached the altar, Celestia quickly took her place behind it, with the main leaders of the land, the only ones authorized to perform a royal wedding. Despite any of the princesses or princes being permitted to perform it, Celestia had taken the right for herself to both announce her and perform the marriage, and Twilight couldn't be happier to have her oldest friend, the mare indeed responsible for this even being possible, to join them together. To the right of the altar was, from bottom to top, Cadence, Rarity, and Fluttershy, the last of them with a hotly glowing blush burning on their face, her wings clenched to her side as she shifted in place with her mane covering her face. To her left was Big Mac, Rainbow Dash, and Pinkie Pie, with Rainbow surprisingly staying grounded, whilst Pinkie bounced only slightly, trying to contain her excitement as well as she could at being part of such a momentous occasion. Finally, standing in front of the altar and waiting for her was the love of her life, and the pony whose hoof she was going to take in marriage. The mare she loved beyond any pony else in the universe. As she approached the altar, the song ended, her father releasing her with a proud smile. She then stepped up and stood face to face with Applejack. Inside, Twilight was an emotional wreck, high-strung as her mind raced through all the things that could have gone wrong, and those that still could, trying to remember the odds of a meteor striking during the ceremony. However, as she met Applejack's eyes and saw that small, calming smile in response to her own panic expression, Twilight felt herself calming down as her near hysterical breath slowed, all of her concerns seeming to fade by the wayside as she swam in those deep vistas that were her mare's eyes. That small smile letting her know everything would be all right. Twilight could only look up into her mare-to-be's eyes through the veil, looking deeply into the emerald pool she had many times before bathed in, almost consumed by them once more before she thought herself back to the surface, letting out a held-in breath of nervousness in a quiet whoosh. They would be married and nothing would stop it. Twilight wouldn't let it. As Celestia looked to them, then to Spike, their trinket bearer, and got nods from them all, she started the proceedings. Fillies and gentlecolts, our esteemed guests, today on this most joyous day, we are gathered here together to join Princess Twilight Sparkle and her chosen bride Applejack in matrimony. Two mares who have helped save Equestria countless times together, now to be eternally joined together as one. If any pony has a valid reason these two should not be wed, speak now, Celestia said, and after the resulting silence, she looked down to Spike. Very well. Without further ado, Spike, the marriage trinkets, please. Spike rose the pillow with the necklace and bracelet on it up to the two brides, with each respective pony taking their trinket. Twilight Sparkle, do you take Applejack Apple to be your loving wife, to forever be yours in sickness and health, so long as you both shall live? I do, proudly, Twilight responded, then looking to her mare, her soulmate, her soon-to-be wife. Applejack Apple, do you take Twilight Sparkle to be your loving wife, to forever be yours in sickness and health, so long as you both shall live? I do, Applejack responded boldly, leaving no doubt she wanted this, to be forever joined with the mare she loved. As Twilight accepted the bracelet upon her hoof, and Applejack took the necklace over her neck, Celestia spoke. With these trinkets, these two mares bind themselves to each other in wedlock. I now pronounce you mare and wife. You may now kiss. At that, Applejack lifted Twilight's veil to the stomping applause of the audience, with them gazing into each other's eyes for but a moment before she lowered her lips to her muzzle. Their lips met, to another round of hooves stomping the floor, whistles and cheers. They held it for a short while as cameras flashed, showing all of Canterlot and their families just how much they loved each other. As they parted lips, the post-wedding photographs were taken. After, Applejack then hoisted Twilight onto her back and easily carried her out of the chapel to near-deafening cheers, setting her down outside. As Twilight turned around through the bouquet behind her to all the unwed mares, It was unintentionally caught by derpy hooves of all ponies, who had generally offset eyes going straight at the implications. Twilight simply giggled as she looked to the young male mare and gave her a wink, knowing Derpy had always had a sweet spot for the time-turner, and indeed had been dating him for many months. Perhaps this was a sign. The couple then went into their just-married carriage, seen off with the throwing of rice, then joined with cheers. Every pony then followed the carriage to the reception hall a short trot away, eager to get on with the celebration and reception. The reception's decor was almost more grand than the wedding chapel had been, the tables covered in all of the most rich and expensive foods, crafted by only the most well-known chefs from all of Equestria, and placed on only the finest Japanese porcelain. And, at the insistence of Applejack, a table was also covered in all sorts of home-style victuals from the recipes of the Apple clan. As the two newly betrothed arrived by carriage, Applejack and Twilight were welcomed off by an entourage of their friends, family, and other ponies cheering and excited, congratulating them. After the initial chaos of congratulations and even more pictures, the two proceeded to the cake-cutting area, the huge cake looking large enough to feed all of Equestria and then some, and indeed it may need to, with as many guests as there were. As they cut the cake and went to feed each other a piece as per standard, Twilight was too late to see the mischievous grin on her mate's face and felt the smush of cake and frosting on her muzzle, followed by Applejack laughing. After Twilight got some righteous revenge by returning the favor with a larger piece, they laughed together as they cleaned each other up, using napkins instead of the tongues they so desired to use instead. Afterward, the sliced cake was distributed to all of the guests, as was authentic French champagne. No expenses were spared, and that went for the food and drinks as well. Big Mac took to the stage alongside his sister and her bride, despite generally being soft-spoken, and in the background, with his glass held in his hoof, he turned to his sister and Twilight, raising the glass to them and smiling. "To my sister and Twilight, may I always be happy together. Congratulations," he said, getting a hoof-stomping applause, and both toasted, grinning from ear to ear. After a few more toasts in their honor and the cake and drinks were finished, every pony was allowed to go back to feasting, with Twilight and Applejack filling their plates full and indulging, with Twilight especially liking to dip carrots in chocolate sauce, and bell peppers and radishes too. After the feast was finished, the after-party started, with a certain white DJ with an electric blue mane manning the turntables, and others hosting the games and other events. Her group of friends was, as always, with Twilight and Applejack as they all ate together, but also with their own stallions whom they had dedicated themselves to years prior. Rainbow Dash with Soren, Fluttershy with Lightning Bolt, Pinkie Pie with Booker Horizon, Rarity with Orange Sky, and of course, Cadence with Shining Armor. "Well, LSBFF, looks like you finally did it, huh? You finally got married," Shining said, getting happy smiles from both. "Well, I hope you're ready for the honeymoon. Cadence won't let me go out of her bedroom for hours. I thought I was gonna die, but what a way to go." Cadence quickly clunked a hoof on Shining's head, earning a stifled chuckle from him as he rubbed the struck spot, seeing the blush burning on her face. "I was in a magically concealed heat when we got married," she mumbled in explanation, getting an understanding nod from all the mares at the table. "But your brother's right. Be sure to drink plenty of water before and during," she finished, giving the two a sly wink. "Yeah, but you gotta remember that marriage isn't all about just hot, sweaty sex, even though that's one of the best parts. It's about you and your partner being together forever, and overcoming everything together. Whether it be choosing how many foals you want, or the curtains for the front window, or even your jobs or anything else. Remember, you choose it together from now on." Twilight looked up, surprised to see that it was Rainbow of all ponies who had dispensed that nudge of wisdom, seeing Rainbow and Soren exchanging a small kiss as they had met each other's eyes. Twilight noting that Rainbow's distinct baby bump had grown since they had last seen each other. It's about being there for each other when you're happy or sad. To be with your soulmate no matter if you're really happy with each other or if you could nearly tear each other apart in anger. Fluttershy said, getting a nuzzle from Lightning Bolt. Fluttershy's stallion gently rubbed her own swollen midsection, getting a soft smile from her. Just remember, it'll all be okay in the end as long as you both truly do love each other, and try to work it out. Oh, and darling, let me tell you, you will get into fights. I mean, goodness, Orange Sky and myself once had the longest fight over whether our chosen carpets were royal blue or cobalt blue. It ended up being some of the best makeup sex we had ever done upon that said carpet. But that's beside the point. Be ready to have at least some conflict. Every pony is different, and will want different things sometimes. It's only natural. It was cobalt. I asked the maker of the carpet himself, and he told me, Orange Sky said, getting a glare from Rarity. And I said it was royal blue. A 20-year seamstress, I should know my shades, Rarity exclaimed before looking around the table and looking sheepish at her outburst before glaring at Orange again. Sometimes I think you only keep bringing this up so you can bend me over later and make up and try to give me that foal you so want me to have. Orange only grinned. Yeah, sometimes being together will be super duper great, and then sometimes it will be like a Pegasus rain cloud came over and rained all of those decorations you spent super long time setting up. All you gotta do is remember that the good times will outweigh the bad, Pinkie said, somehow appearing right between Twilight and Applejack. And that your partner will love you no matter what. After all, you married them for a reason, because you love them with all your heart, and want to be with them forever. So death do us part isn't a cute commitment after all, Cadence said before looking at the two. What we're all trying to say is that being married won't be easy, but it'll be worth it when you see your most loved pony in the whole world at the start or end of the day, and tell them how your day went or what you dreamt about. To have them listen to you and understand you like no pony else can. It's the best feeling in the world. Shining Armor finished, getting a peck on the cheek from Cadence. Plus, like Rainbow Dash said earlier, the sex is awesome. Shining once more felt a hoof land roughly on his head with a twank. After chatting and eating together, the newly married couple went to the dance floor, with the DJ reluctantly putting on a slower paced song for them instead of the heavy beats she was dropping before. As Applejack's chest pressed against Twilight, and their hooves started to move as one, their heads wrapped around each other, so their chins rested on the other's crests. Slowly the two shared their first dance together as sworn life mates, nuzzling into each other as they slowly moved together smoothly. Their dance lessons had apparently paid off. They slowly ground together as the calm rhythm played, relaxing for the first time in a week as nothing else was expected for their overly complex wedding. A huge burden off of their mind. For now, they just held each other close, feeling their mates' chests rise with their own and each other's breaths. Feeling as connected to each other as two ponies possibly could. Feeling like they were one body moving together. Yeah, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me, Applejack said as they moved rhythmically to a slow tempo, her voice choking up, trying to keep her movement steady as she also tried to keep her happy tears in. You are to me too, Applejack. I couldn't ask for some pony better to spend the rest of my life with than you, Twilight responded, with the two stopping their motions as the music ended, sharing a short kiss before Nightlight came along to receive Twilight from Applejack for his dance with the bride.